All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, as well as checking out Twitter, of course. To anyone that does watch on Twitter, I will not be able to live react to the chats that I'm seeing there, not until I get a second screen. What I want to do is I want to have the StreamYard app, the Twitter page, with the actual live stream, and Rumble open on one screen, attached to a desktop. I think I'm going to have to upgrade my setup considerably for what I have in mind. And then on the other end, I'll be seeing myself, etc., and looking through the news tabs. It's going to take a little bit of effort here. I do see that I am live on Twitter, though. Should probably make sure that hello to everyone on Twitter. Don't worry, your comments are visible to other people there. Twitter is, for live streaming purposes, a little bit more primitive. It's not like, native vlogging platform or anything, but I still figured it was worth it to branch out further. YouTube is screwing me. Twitter, meanwhile, has no problem with me, and neither does Rumble. So we'll make sure that we're live on Rumble. Speaking of the devil. Let's see. Yes, we are indeed live. Hello, Rumble. We have some chats. Mrs. Tag, good clanking. Marcus Z, 1967, good morning, Sticks, clank. And Flyer Rod, ahoy, and clank. And Gary Baxter, 001, clank it to me. That's what I'm talking about. Sticks, dump YouTube. They don't give notifications, says Privileged White Devil. Yes, but there is still a large native audience on the platform on which I am competitive that does watch this, including you where you're commenting. Usually it's several thousand people. So there's no reason for me to dump YouTube. It's just that there's also no reason for me not to multi-stream anyway. There's no penalty for doing so. It brings in more income, admittedly. I'm hyper competitive. I like being on multiple platforms. I like being big on Rumble and on BitChute and on Twitter and on YouTube and everywhere else. I enjoy it. It is the lifeblood. It is the essence that I absorb from the world. Anyway, we have a shit ton of news to talk about today. I had to bump one of the stories. I was going to talk about the BuzzFeed story, but then I figured the Mike Morells story is more important, so I threw that in as a main. And of course, BuzzFeed news is now gone, but I did talk about that this morning, so it'd be redundant. We've got to talk about the the funny reaction to the blue checkmark crowd crying out in pain as they go completely ballistic right now, because legacy blue check marks on Twitter, for the most part, other than a few people that Musk is personally paying for their blue check marks, like Stephen King, for some odd reason. I think that's despite him, actually. They've gone the way of the dinosaur. If you see a blue check mark on Twitter now, it's because the person, like myself, has paid to do so as a content creator, making sure that the recommended side of the algorithm actually favors me. Makes sense for when I'm making tweets, especially now that a lot of the other heavy-hitting content creators dropped out of blue. They're not paying for the check mark, so they'll be less visible than people like me. I am perfectly willing to pay $8 a month in order to supersede them. I think it's a wise investment. We have to talk about Biden and the scuttlebutt around the possibility that he may actually be nuts enough to launch a 24 presidential bid. We're not 100% sure, but there are some people that are reliable sources close enough to Biden that indicate that, yes, over the next few weeks, actually, he probably will be announcing that he's running for re-election. Oh, my God. I can't wait to see that fucking matchup. Biden v. Trump 2.0. And then we've got Mike Morell, of course, the ex-CIA chief, and his revelations under penalty of perjury. He said this under oath, by the way, with regards to Blinken and the Biden campaign, and that famous letter that was about Russian influence, actually, in the 2016 election. We'll be going through most of that verbatim, actually. King of Biltong, good morning from Anton's in Roanoke, Texas. Hashtag Clank Nation. Thank you, Anton. Sign me up for another batch of Biltong when I get down there at some point. I'll be wearing a cowboy hat, too, by the way, when I arrive. Sigil Stone 17. BuzzFeed News closing down. Blue check's butthole blown out. Austrian painter's birthday. Yesterday was an auspicious day. Yeah, and all capped off with the cringe posting of John Fetterman, who we will be talking about, but for different reasons. His pity party after leaving Walter Reed It's some sad sack bullshit, actually, holding up his obviously recently purchased 420 flag and basically saying, you know, fucking blaze it. And keep in mind, this is a sitting senator encouraging people to use mind-altering substances. Well, I think weed should be legal, and not just legal, but decriminalized. So you should be able to grow it and smoke it however you want. It is a little bit funny, especially for someone who was just in the psych ward for for depression. Yes, the weed is really helping him. Giga Mango Fanta. The adventures of Styx Lip Smackenhammer continue. Ready to double smack after every drink of pagan coom from the caffeine chalice. Lots and lots of caffeine over here. I've got my energy drink actually at the moment. Yes, I know I said that I would stop drinking them. I had coffee in the morning, don't worry, but once in a while you need a little bit of an extra pick-me-up. First news story. This is a good one. So Elon Musk, as of yesterday, 420, of course, fucking blaze it, man. Adolf and weed, basically, day. He rescinded the legacy blue check marks for people who originally Twitter gave a blue check mark to people who signed up for it, and they established that they were socially relevant, basically. So you could establish that you represent a brand, that was number one, or that you represent yourself, and yourself happens to be a celebrity or a politician or something. And they'd give you verification. That way it would make it harder for people to impersonate you, what we generally call satire, by the way. And he rescinded that as of yesterday. And Bette Midler and AOC and a bunch of other people are really, really cut up about this. I don't know what AOC's jive is here. She's got a government check mark. But here's what she posted. Jokes aside, this is setting the stage for major potential harm when a natural disaster hits and no one knows what agencies, reporters, or outlets are real. A lot of people getting that on Twitter. We will dovetail that with something I've pointed out for several years now, actually, in a moment. Not long ago, we had major flash floods. We had to mobilize trusted info fast to save lives. Today just made that harder. Well, no, not really, because people who are intelligent are going to understand which the official account is, many of which will be verified anyway. Twitter is verifying government accounts, etc. anyway on its own. They get different colored check marks, so that has nothing to do with it. It's like she posts the picture here that was posted by Shauna, Golden Gate Blonde, and it's the city of New York, their account verifying the fact that they are, authentic. And then an obvious satire account saying, no, you're not. This account is the only authentic Twitter account representing and run by the New York City government, which clearly is not the case. By the way, they'll get banned for that if they don't put parody and satire in their header. Here's the thing. I seem to recall pointing out for years that it was problematic for users, US users at least, to be banned from Twitter because there were emergency services, etc. on Twitter. So USGS quake alerts, NOAA weather alerts, police, etc. The city governments and stuff, they can rapidly get info out to people and say, look, there's been a bomb threat on 3rd and Main. There's a gunman at large at the shopping mall. You shouldn't, try to go to the shopping mall right now, etc., etc. I pointed out that for the purposes of U.S. citizens, nobody should really be able to be banned for anything that's not, illegal behavior or spam or botting or something like that because of their need to be able to access those services. I didn't see AOC and all the other blue checkmark crowd rambling about that at the time and echoing the fact that that was important. All of a sudden, though, it's very, very important that Twitter maintain their blue check marks of verification. Again, she's hoping that people are too fucking stupid to fact check. If it's a government account, it's already given a gray check mark. Media accounts are given gold check marks, and so on forth. They are already gaining verification on an individual basis because of that. They don't even need to buy the blue check mark. I mean, they can, but they don't have to. That just means that their push reaches further as far as recommended algorithms go. They're not being deprived of free speech. People aren't being deprived of the ability to sign up for USGS alerts or whatever on Twitter. They can already do that. AOC is lying effectively to people by pretending that it is through the for-pay blue checkmark process that verification is actually given. But for the services that she's mentioning, that's not actually the case. The real case is that prior to Elon Musk taking over, people were being artificially and arbitrarily banned from the service, and therefore bereaved of the ability to interact with those services via Twitter, which is still a thing. There's still people getting banned for wrongful reasons, but it's less now, far, far less. Most U.S. citizens are capable of getting back on the platform. Eventually, permabans are scheduled to be done away with altogether, so that there's a process by which people can actually make use of that service. The direction Elon Musk is taking the company in fundamentally is better than the direction it was in before under Agrawal/Dorsey, and she has a problem with that. She has a problem with that because really the whole point is to censor people. The whole point is that she wants her celebrities and her Politico crowd to be able to run roughshod over independent content creators. That's the only reason she has a problem. When Bette Midler calls Elon Musk a worm, how dare he remove verification from me after all these years and all the content I've put on the site? Get used to it, bitch. Who gives a fuck? You're Bette Midler. What's the last thing that you did of any note? Hocus Pocus, I think. Giga Mango Fanta. What would you say is arguably the best meal that either you or the wifey has made for Din Din? What about breakfast? She makes most of the breakfast stuff. I tend not to eat breakfast. As far as my favorite meal that Liz makes, it'd be scalloped potatoes. Her lentil soup is a close second. I make an excellent cream of mushroom soup. I make excellent curried masala, like just any kind of masala, really. There are multiple different types. And I make a lot of Indian stir fry. I make really well. She also makes a good potato leek soup. But generally, for breakfast, I mean, my idea of a breakfast is coffee. So never eat it. I wait till brunch. So yeah, the blue checkmark crowd has had an epic mental breakdown, and I'm loving every minute of it. I think they deserve it, ultimately, at the end of the day. By the way, there are more people watching on Rumble than on YouTube right now. Many such cases. Steak knife. Is Russia a paper dragon? No, Russia has an advantage over its southern cousins in China. China is the paper dragon. Russia has enormous energy resources. They also have more nukes. That gives them more of a deterrent. China is entirely reliant upon the Western Hemisphere buying their shit and steel and other goods, including food, being imported into China. Russia does not have that problem. Russia is capable of establishing food self-sufficiency. They're certainly fuel self-sufficient. China relies on Russia for much of that fuel that they need themselves. Although they do have one advantage, they have a lot of fucking minerals, lithium and so forth. Also, Gristle Lumps is correct. Yeah, the Chinese military, by and large, is comprised of fresh-faced newcomers without any combat experience. The Russian military, some of them actually have been in combat. Russia graduates 150,000 capable engineers yearly, says Second Horizon. Is it really that many people? It's a lot of fucking engineers for a country with that population. Giga Manga Fanta, did you see the testimony vid by ex-Navy SEAL Chief Eddie Gallagher, who was found not guilty of war crimes, putting an eye patch McCain on blast? Really puts more focus on these vets gone war pig and criminal. No, I haven't seen that. I'll have to check it out. Mark of Reality over on Rumble. Have you ever looked into the cereal from Magic Spoon, supposedly healthy, etc.? I have no idea what that refers to. It sounds like it's down my alley, though. Next news story. The mad lad may actually be crazy enough to do it. We have breaking news here. Well, as of yesterday, Biden preparing to announce re-election campaign next week. So the signs now point towards Joe Biden actually running again, which all but ensures that he is, in fact, the Dem nominee. Considering the state of the economy, the likely further state of the economy, his obvious mental and physical health issues, et cetera, I think the Democrats are wandering into a trap. I think there's at least a 20-30% chance that while on the campaign trail, he ends up incapacitated. He's over 80 years old. He's had several aneurysms, a number of falls. He's got cognitive decline. We know this. They can pretend that it's arguable, but it's really not. Whereas he's probably going up against Trump, who is 6 years younger, number one, has actually gotten more healthy. He lost quite a bit of weight, so he no longer qualifies as obese, maybe somewhat overweight, but not obese. has given up some of the McDonald's and Coca-Cola and so forth. He's going to be up against someone who, while his speaking style can sometimes go off the rails, is mentally coherent. And in a rematch, I think it is advantage Trump. Again, at this point, really, they have two things that they want to pull out of their ass. Number one is to hold legal challenges over Trump's head to try to stymie him. That's not working for the purposes of the primary. We'll see what happens in the general. That's number one. And number two, the no labelers movement, basically spearheaded by Joe Lieberman, the Rhino. Joe Lieberman and others are attempting to create a third-party sort of movement in order to siphon votes away from Donald Trump. It's not to attack Biden. It is quite clearly to attack Trump. And I guarantee you that if they activate their ace in the hole, that it will be a populistic candidate that they attempt to field. They'll probably try to get someone like Larry Elder, who just announced that he's probably going to be running the other day, somebody like that, or Ramaswamy or Nikki Haley or something, and run them essentially to have a neocon candidate. They are going to try to play spoiler in the 2024 election if it looks like Trump is going to win. I think that Trump has an advantage, a fairly large systemic advantage, especially if the economy continues to go south. We'll see what happens there. Biden is not well. He's not well liked within his party. I like how people say, well, Trump doesn't have a lot of in-party popularity, which is actually not true. It's just there are people who like his ideas, but they would prefer another candidate. That's most of DeSantis supporters. It's not like they're true TDS sufferers. You see some of them putting Trump on blast regularly, including now on abortion, for literally being consistent to his original views and the views of 99% of conservatives. Hey, we want Roe v. Wade to end because we want it to be a states' rights issue. They're calling him out for this, for being consistent on the goddamn issue when they have flown the coop and overreached, including Lindsey Graham with his fucking suicide attack with regards to the issue, calling for a national abortion ban. Trump is fundamentally, at least strategically, if not ethically and morally right. And there are people who don't understand the nuance of that particular campaign. Again, they want to elect somebody who's going to hold up a copy of Mein Kampf, I guess, in front of the nation and say, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, we're going back to the 1930s. That's not the way that you get elected. Even if you believe in that mentality, you're not going to be able to swing it in an election. Trump's being very, very stable in his views, and I applaud him for that. He's decided not to take the bait and pretend to be something that he's not. Told people about this for a number of years, said it in the 2016 election too. They got themselves all amped up, pretending that Donald Trump was going to declare himself emperor, and I told him that's just not, historically speaking, based on what he said, that's not going to happen. They told me I was wrong at the time. I keep getting told wrong by people that get proven wrong. It is a continuous fixture of making my political predictions. That Manx guy, $2, no comment, thank you. Godsmack AR69, hey Sticks, glad I finally caught you live. You've been my favorite independent content creator for several years. I want to thank you for being a voice of reason through dark times and for being principled. You're the best. Thank you. I thank you for your support. Much more to come. Magnum Norse, Brie Larson is an icon and should be considered a feminist icon. Ha ha ha. Giga Mango Fanta. If they run Joe from the basement again and he still boomers to death, will the MSM and opponents of Trump use the elderly argument to oppose him? Well, Trump is also old. I mean, he's in his mid-70s, so he can't really do that. Oh, what this does take off the table is one advantage the Dems actually would have if they had a younger candidate, which is say, look, Biden had to step down, and he was the same age as Trump when he was running in this election as Biden was before, and we need fresh meat, basically. They could use that, but if Biden gets in as the technical incumbent with no clear-cut opponent that has any road of viability, they're not going to be able to use that particular card against Trump. It takes a fairly major potential attack against Trump off the table. Hence the necessity of the no-labelers that are working for the uniparty to step in. Hate to tell you this, but Joe Lieberman and the other people participating in that are all uniparty stooges. Magnum Norse. These monkeys can't find their own Coolio. Stephen Ellis. Any plans for your second screen yet? Want us all to donate? Lol. No, I'll be taking care of that myself. That won't be a problem. Branch COVID-19. Apparently, Musk took away the Chinese state-affiliated media label away from Chinese propagandists. Yes, some of the labels have been removed. It's not. I think that they're probably formatting what they're going to say. So it won't say Chinese state-affiliated. It'll say something else. We'll see what he does with that. Aaron Nuclear. Also ran or also Rand. And if Rand, what the fuck? I think I missed one here. No, I guess not. Hands are blazing red. Thoughts on a ton of young men who are being left behind by society. Lots of people being left behind by society. That's what society does best. Mark of reality. Since Joe Exotic decided to run for the Dem nomination for POTUS, and I think he's running as a libertarian actually, or trying to, would you support an Operation Chaos just to get him into a debate with Biden? It's impossible. He's in a federal prison right now, so he can't participate in a debate. It's not clear that they'd be able to set that up. And meme-worthy and fun as though that is, and it would be funny to see him have people actually vote for him, chaos candidate style, and it'd be hilarious. The no-labelers should back Joe Exotic, I suppose. The Tiger King, the crazy one. The gay dude who literally sucked dicks for methamphetamine for some time. Well, that would be funny. It's not a serious campaign. Cam2425IA. Of the GOP presidential candidates, who do you think would be the best VP option? I know, Rand. He's not on the list. If Rand is not on the list, then Carrie Lake is up there. Kristi Noem is also up there. You could arguably do worse than Larry Elder, oddly enough. He just announced the other day. Yeah, I mean, he can also just grab somebody up that nobody knows who he is, like Mike Pence was, actually. I just hope that it's better than Mike Pence this time. I was miffed when Trump chose him the last time around. Next news story. Ex-CIA chief spills on how he got spies to write false Hunter Biden laptop letter to help Biden. Joe Biden's presidential campaign prompted former acting CIA director Mike Morell to help Biden by organizing 50 colleagues to sign a letter in October 2020, falsely claiming that damning emails from Hunter Biden's laptop published by the Post were Russian disinformation. Bingo. There you have it. This is under oath. This is sworn testimony. This is not, hey, I'm talking out of my ass. I'm telling it to the crowd over at Breitbart. This is before Congress. In private sworn testimony, Morell told the House Judiciary Committee that Antony Blinken, now Secretary of State, was the senior campaign official who reached out to him on or before October 17th, 2020, 3 days after the Post published an email from the laptop suggesting Hunter had introduced his Ukrainian business partner to his father, then Vice President Biden. So this is pertinent to the business dealing side of Hunter Biden's laptop. It had nothing to do with dick pics, nothing to do with Parmesan, nothing to do with all of the other distractions that are interesting and intriguing, but really that have no political relevance. They're limited to Hunter and his associates, not to Joe Biden, that you are told to focus on. I like it. Jeff Tiedrick and the Krasensteins are constantly talking about Hunter Biden's penis. They are completely obsessed with the topic and project as though other people are the ones obsessed. This is about the business dealings. Joe Biden lying objectively about certain meetings that he had. We know that. We've got photographic evidence showing him meeting with people and with Hunter at the same time that he claimed he never met. That's cut and dry. It's objective. We have the evidence. It's real. It's been forensically analyzed multiple times. It's the real deal. Morell, identified as a potential CIA director under Biden, said he organized the letter to help President Biden because I wanted him to win the election. And then Biden's people reached out to Morell and encouraged him to do just that, fronting false information to a bunch of uniparty intel insiders who, generally speaking, had to have known that there was no actual evidence of the claim that they were making, which was that the Hunter Biden laptop wasn't actually real. This is a Russian attack campaign on behalf of Trump, who is their puppet. But that never happened, and they knew it never happened. At leastwise, even those that can claim ignorance had no particular evidence that it happened. They should have known better, but they claimed that they had a gnosis, a knowledge, some sort of inside information that was the fact. This is damning, which is why you're not going to see it posted on CNN except in the form of a brief rebuttal saying, well, we're not sure that what Morell is saying is really true. Yeah, he's saying it under penalty of perjury, but the House Republicans on judiciary are the ones soliciting the info, so it's clearly a political hit job. Yeah, that'll go over well. Until Blinken's call, Morrell told House investigators that he had no intention of writing any statement exonerating Biden, so he wanted Biden to win. He's biased in favor of him, but it wasn't until the Biden camp itself reached out to the former CIA director that he solicited all of his buddies to sign off on this particular document, which was circulated very, very widely, unlike the actual leaked material from Hunter Biden's laptop, and presented as objective truth by the US media, therefore interfering with the 2020 election. We're not claiming any further honking, anything with voting machines or anything. Honk, honk, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're just saying the obvious and the objectively true, which is that the claim was false. It was falsifiable. It has been shown to be, at least in large part, false. The material there is not part of a disinfo campaign and was indeed real. This is objective truth. There is no debate to be had about that. What we're seeing here is how that false information, which claimed that it itself had knowledge of this information that was true being false, actually took form. He agreed that the conversation with Blinken triggered the intent in him. At 10:53 p.m., the night of the call, Blinken emailed Morrell a USA Today article claiming that the FBI was examining whether Hunter Biden's laptop was part of a disinfo campaign. Of course, the FBI at this time already knew that it wasn't. They presented it, though, as though it was plausible to Facebook and to Twitter to suppress the story because they too wanted Biden to win. At the bottom of Blinken's email was the signature block of Andrew Bates, then director of rapid response for the Biden campaign. Link in the description. You can go through the rest of it yourself, and you probably should. This is absolutely A-grade damnation for the Biden administration and for the legacy media and for elements of big tech, which helped to suppress the story, which is exactly why the story about the story is currently being suppressed and very few of them are talking about it. They don't want people to know that this actually happened because they might start asking questions. Giga Mango Fanta. Imagine the hilarity if all of Congress would hold sessions while on cocaine, or if members were allowed to slap each other around in a boxing ring. The ancient Persians used to kind of do that. They would get loaded, they'd get drunk, and then they'd have their debates, and then they would sober up and re-debate it so that they could have two different opinions to go with. Did you know that? Interesting historical fact. Bowel Health Incident Report. What about Trump JFK Jr.? Impossible, because Trump continues to say, hey, warp speed was a good idea, and RFK Jr., it's not JFK Jr., says that's a bad thing. So that's I think that's a Rubicon that Trump wouldn't cross. It'd be an interesting matchup. It'd make Trump look fucking crazy, though. So it won't be RFK Jr. Magnum Norris, in order to stay alive, SeaWorld has endorsed and employed Lizzo to inspire and bring all the children into bliss. Yeah, that's one killer whale there. Where is America? AOC's check mark should be in crayon. That would be funny. Imagine all the ways, like if I were Elon Musk, I'd be trolling 10 times harder. Imagine how much goddamn fun you could have with the celeb crowd and the legacy media. Man, that would be lit. He's doing a pretty good job of offending them, though, and I strongly support him in doing so. Horowitz, Feinberg, and Horowitz. I actually tried making biltong a few months ago. It was an absolute failure. Looks like I'd have to leave it up to the pros. I just placed an order at King of Biltong. Send me beef. Wonder if there's a teriyaki flavor. I really like that. Jens Peterson. Mike Flynn as VP. Make the Dems re. Mike Flynn would be on the list, possibly. Get Manafort to do it. Really, really piss him off. Durin Albane. Sent a DM on a small comp. Needs build. Needs slight changes, but the basic idea will work good for you. Small footprint, easy to move. DM if you want part list, and you can print and order parts and have a local assembly. Thank you. I'll take care of that after my live stream. And after I shower, and after I go to the store and do 10 other things. Next news story. House committee advances disapproval resolution on gun rule. This is about stabilizing braces for pistols. The idea is that they're claiming that it effectively functions the way a rifle stock would function, and therefore it turns the weapon into a short-barreled rifle. Now, there is a technical accuracy with regards to the basic premise of the design of the weapon. If you take a tactical pistol of certain barrel length, and you attach a stabilizing brace, or at least some kinds of them. Some of them, they can swing out of the way. Some of them are more fixed. If you attach that, it effectively does change its function into being more rifle-like. They are fundamentally correct. Here's the problem. Short-barreled rifles are completely artificially demonized, and they don't need to be listed separately from any other weapon. The idea that they're actually, that the liberals are putting forth a cockamamie concept that a tactical pistol with both the brace and a 16-inch barrel is somehow more concealable because it has a stabilizing brace. It turns it into a concealable rifle. What kind of fucking clothes are you wearing that kind of weapon with that kind of length is easily concealed? What the goddamn fuck are you talking about? And please tell me, how many times has a tactical pistol, brace or no brace, by the way, been used in, number one, gun crime in general that's not accidental or suicide, and number two, especially, because this is the litmus test, they use mass shootings. No. They use full-sized rifles or they use handguns. Those are the two most common, mostly handguns. If you're counting the inflated mass shooting numbers of the post-Obama administration, where it's 4 or more people killed or severely injured, most of the mass shootings in the U.S. involve gang violence and handguns. Those that involve psychopaths typically involve full-sized rifles. They do not involve the honey badger, for example. They just don't. Or a 5.7 with a folding brace or something like that. It doesn't involve that. Yeah, I mean, I see people mentioning trench coats. Yes, you can do that with a full-sized rifle, though, too, now, can you? If you have a full-sized trench coat, so what's the difference? And how many times does the mass shooter actually wear a trench coat? Other than a handful of edgelords in the 1990s, how often does that happen? No, they use baggy clothes like, the hoodie and the baggy pants, and they get a handgun in there. And if they're a true psychopath, so they don't care if they live or die, they're not even trying to hide the fact that they have the weapon until from the moment that they get out of their vehicle. They just grab their rifle and they start shooting. The fact is that tactical pistols, the ones that are getting these braces, I like them. I think they're aesthetically pleasing myself, brace or no brace, by the way. I prefer a folding brace so that you can get that sort of like a 1970s look to the weapon, and then you can fold it out and, utilize it a little bit more easily for aiming purposes. They're not used in gang shootings, in drive-bys, not being used in mass shootings. They're probably, other than maybe old bolt actions or shotguns, they're the weapon least likely that's going to kill you if you're facing some confrontation. Yeah, I'm going to conceal this tactical pistol. I'm not going to look a little bit sketchy with the oversized trench coat marching towards the school. That makes sense. Yeah. No, they're going to use a handgun. If they're trying to conceal it and get away with it, it's a handgun, possibly a revolver. If they don't give a shit, it's a full-sized rifle. They want that extra muzzle velocity. They're probably not using the short-barreled rifle variant that is a short-barreled rifle because it happens to have a form of brace associated with it. That's bullshit. Testing 2741, and legacy media caring and discussing will never happen. Yeah, the legacy media doesn't care about you, me, or anyone else other than themselves. Steak knife, crazy, Immortal Technique. Yeah, you'd like Cannabis. Yeah, Immortal Technique's pretty cool. I remember, what was it? I can't remember the name of the song. Freedom of Speech was the name of the song. That was sort of a thing back in the anti-war period of the late 2000s. Really liked that song, where he talked smack about Bill O'Reilly and George W., actually. Lol, don't admit to packing a snub nose. Yeah, it doesn't need to be a snub or anything like that, but a pistol, a handgun, a revolver variant, whatever, is more concealable than something that's a foot longer, I would think, generally speaking, again, unless you are going to join the trench coat mafia. Jared Pierce, they're used now a lot. Birmingham, Alabama, hit 74 and 100 deleted rate last year. Yeah, what I'm thinking, I want to get a tactical pistol just because they look cool. Yeah, it'd be fun to go plinking. Good for garden defense, I suppose. Something like that. So yeah, the House Judiciary has advanced a joint resolution to block this. Now, where it goes from here is anyone's guess, but they're attempting to block the ATF's new rule. My hope is that it's a successful attempt. because it really doesn't make any sense. I mean, the entire NFA doesn't make sense. They need to just repeal it entirely. Short-barreled rifle, oh my God, terrible. Sawn-off shotgun, oh my God, so horrible. You already have these things, guys. It's just the government wants you to pay your $200. Now, if a person is so psychotic that they're already buying the vest and the rifle and the hundreds of rounds of ammo and the extra mags and the binoculars and all the other shit that they need to go on their shooting spree, do you really think $200 fucking is going to impede them? There's no further litmus test unless they're a lunatic or a felon anyway. So if they're not, there's no paperwork on them. They can already buy the gun. They can already get everything else. If they can get a full-sized rifle, what the fuck would they want the tactical pistol anyway? They're suicidal. They're crazy. That Indian dude, as an aside, in Sudan, the whole fiasco in Darfur was Sudanese Arab militias persecuting black, animist, and Christian Darfuris. Yes, I know. Next news story. We've got something, well, it's not really funny here. I mean, look, Fetterman had a stroke and he suffers from depression. I'm not going to laugh at the man for that. It's just, I mean, he hasn't started a war yet. Once he starts World War III or something, once he votes in favor of starting the next combat, then I'll treat him like I do like fucking McCain, and I'll laugh when he's sick or in pain or something. He hasn't done that so far. He's just a goddamn moron. Fetterman shares how the Pennsylvania Senate worsened his mental health, Senate race, rather. Can I please point something out? This is a CNN politics bit. When you're saying, oh, he's got some personal problems, Fetterman is a nice person. You know, he struggles. He got depressed because he got overworked, and she's trying to recover from a stroke, and he has to go campaign 6 days a week. Okay, I'm amenable to that concept. I'm sorry that you had a stroke. You could have chosen to drop your candidacy. Nobody, well, other than your wife possibly, nobody forced you to go through with the fucking campaign. Do not expect my goddamn pity about your fucking mental health when you made the choice to go through with it. You had to have been told by your doctors, look, you're looking at a many months long recovery process for physical reasons, cognitive reasons, his ability to understand spoken language is hazarded. You're looking at least many months of recovery. Now may not be the time to massively exert yourself and take on a job that requires a shit ton of paperwork and constantly going to meetings and dealing with fucking lawyers and stuff. He could have been told by his wife, who I'm sure didn't, hey, honey, maybe you should take a break. Maybe you should try in a few years. There's other Senate seats available too in the state. And a couple of years from now, I think the other one is up anyway. You go for that one. Go for a House seat in a couple of years. Run for governor in a couple of years. Take a couple of years off. Look, we're already flush anyway. We're doing fairly well. But that's not what happened. His wife, I can read her like a goddamn book, is the main reason that he ran for the Senate. She is the impetus behind that. You can tell with the photographs. You can tell with the interviews. You can tell with the way that she carries her head and he positions himself when they're in public. She's already pissed off about the fact that her husband had a stroke and therefore physically is not quite what he was before that. She said, basically, you asshole, I'm leaving you with the kids if you don't fucking run for the seat and fucking win. It's Mehmet Oz, weak candidate, admittedly, one of the few candidates that Trump backed that admittedly was rather problematic, along with Mastriano, and he has his own fucking problems. Not least ways the GOP scrapping funding him. Fetterman wins. He didn't have to go through with it. He could have said, look, bitch, I've got to recover. I can barely fucking understand what the fuck you're saying to me right now, and go ahead, fuck off. He chose not to do that. Well, while that's a regrettable situation in one's interpersonal relationship, that is not the taxpayer's problem. The fact is that Fetterman has been sidelined for a considerable amount of time because he chose, right after having a stroke, only a couple of months before the election happened, he chose to fucking continue. He chose that. He doesn't get to whine now about it worsening his mental health. Oh, it's so stressful, and I have to deal with reporters and shit like that, make speeches, and I got depressed because I can't speak like I used to. I say weird shit. I have word salad. You chose to. Nobody forced you to do that unless it was you cucking for your wife. And I can tell you that is their dynamic, by the way. I'm not the only one who has noticed the fucking body language with their particular problem. Gigamango Fanta. As a parent, what solutions do you think should or should not be done to counter the lazy Karening of the current generation, parents who blame everything but themselves for the problematic upbringing of their kids? Educate people on why that's a bad idea. Sounds like the laundry machine, but I'm not 100% sure. I guess if water comes sloshing down the stairs, I might have to pause it for a minute. That Indian dude, in regards to Black Cleopatra, come on, Hollywood. Ethiopia and the Horn of Africa is sitting right there. Ethiopia was the third country to turn Christian. There is a gold mine right there. Yeah, but people aren't as interested in their story. Aksum and so forth. Testing 2741. Criminal will just attach a real stock and fuck the $200. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like you can't physically attach it or own the fucking brace or literally 3D print your own. It's just you're not allowed to use it in combination with the weapon. It's sort of like that concept that I've had. Like, let's say you have an AR-15, the rifle variant, and then an AR pistol. Now, in some states, you can have up to 15 rounds in the magazine for any pistol, but only 10 for a rifle. Let's say that I have a 15-round magazine, therefore, and I own both the rifle that I'm not allowed to attach it to and the pistol, which I can. Can I get in trouble for simply owning it because it could presume, according to the prosecutor, that I intended to attach it to the rifle variant? What say if that's the only mag I have? I can claim in a court, hey, I never intended to use the rifle. I've just got it mounted on the wall for decor. I only use it with the pistol variant. Can I get in trouble? Can they prove probable cause that I was going to violate state law with regards to magazine restrictions? The world may never know. BW, do you think we can take the Senate in 24 and Trump win? Yes, it's possible. We'll have to wait to see how the Senate races stack up. There's still plenty of time for that. Branch COVID-19. I get Oz wasn't a great candidate, but how does Fetterman get away with that? Oz was objectively better than Fetterman. Yeah, but I mean, initially, I didn't want to endorse Oz either because he just wasn't a good candidate. There was nothing about him really that stuck. He's a sleazebag. He's like a sleazy car salesman. Fetterman, though, was incapacitated effectively and still managed to get in there. Now he is throwing a pity party. Sacrificial ramen. Not only the NFA should be repealed, every person who paid the $200 tax should be refunded. No, I don't believe in reparations, so that's perfectly fine. The government already has that money. Let him keep that pittance, which is really what it is compared to the cost of some of the weapons people buy and attach those things to. Farnicator over on Rumble. Woke up way too early again. Take my money. Or honk honk. Whatever. I'll take your money. Thank you. Next news story. Arrests over alleged secret police station deepen showdown between Washington and Beijing. Yes, China has a number of, they're not really police stations, they're not really police, organizations where people that sort of dress up in uniform and pretend they LARP as cops have been harassing people in multiple U.S. cities. I'll go through a little bit of this verbatim. The Justice Department charged 34 officers of China's national police. So these are people that in China actually are law enforcement, all of whom are believed to live in China with related offenses. So harassing people and trying to silence critics of Chinese policy, specifically Chinese nationals. So a person from China has immigrated, they're a resident or whatever. These are the thugs that are trying to harass them. The revelations threatened to pinch already sour U.S.-China relations into further crisis and had the immediate impact of hardening bipartisan suspicion about Beijing on Capitol Hill in a way that will have serious diplomatic implications. I doubt that, because this has been going on for goddamn years, and so far D.C. has done jack fucking shit about it. Prosecutors allege that China opened an undeclared police station in New York City that was used at least once, and that means many, many times. At least once means more than once. To track down a pro-democracy activist of Chinese descent living in California. Interesting how they operate from coast to coast. Quite a bit of a budget there. It's too bad that we're the ones fucking funding them, but yeah. Two men, Lu Jinwang and Shen Jinping, both U.S. citizens, allegedly created the first known overseas police station in the United States on behalf of the Chinese Ministry of Public Security, according to the Justice Department. Bull fucking shit. We've been hearing stories about this sort of activity, and we can't for years, number one. And we cannot speculate that it isn't more widespread than one goddamn attempt with a few people. There is no way that with the kind of budget, look at what China involves itself in. pouring enormous amounts of money into other countries to influence their political system, to get a toehold, a foot in the door to colonize them. They've been doing this in Africa, especially in a few Asian countries. Enormous amounts of money spent on hacking, enormous amounts of money spent on woke propaganda. The entirety of TikTok is basically as a guaranteed blank check by the Chi-Coms in order to convince Westerners to hate their own civilization, basically. Do you really think that this was as limited as a couple of outlets that we just barely found out about, and at least one instance of harassment? Dude, the Chinese government in a million years would never be, at least give them a credit for efficiency. They would never be inefficient enough to have this many individuals involved and funded centrally by China to harass one fucking goddamn person. There's got to be at least 10 harassment cases per person that they fucking charge. So we're talking 340 plus some from the New York field office of the Chi-Coms. This is a widespread problem, not a limited one. By the way, North Korea does the same thing. This is the FBI also accused a group of Chinese officers of flooding an online video conference. Again, had to be funded somehow, screaming at and threatening Chinese dissidents in the U.S. who were discussing democracy. This is not unsurprising activity by a foreign intel agency on foreign soil. Washington's penchant for engaging democracy activists in totalitarian countries has, for instance, long been seen as meddling by repressive governments. I mean, technically it is. When you're going into another country and you're trying to convince people to spread your way of life, we are meddling with them. I like to think that it's one of the less malevolent things, one of the less malevolent examples of meddling by the U.S. government. Which one's worse, invading a country or convincing people in that country you should be able to speak your mind? Probably the former. Jim Morrison. I've followed energy issues since I was a kid when the first oil shock hit. The peak oil lie had me until about 2010. I agree with much of what you say on this topic regarding Obama and oil formation. Yes, the biological concept that it is effectively related to extremophiles in the Earth's crust and then differential pressures partially as the result of porosity in rock in the stratum, and secondly, because of seismic tectonic movement. That is, I believe, the most easy explanation as to how at least much of the oil forms. Not all necessarily. Some of it probably does form by abiotic functions. I just don't think that the breakdown of enormous chunks of granite over the course of millions and millions of years is really responsible for all of the oil that keeps regenerating itself awfully quickly in the wells that we've already explored and abandoned. 50 years later, all of a sudden, you find another 100,000 barrels there. Could it be because you siphoned out a bunch of material, leading to greater porosity, and other materials generated by extremophiles seeped into the area? Yeah, I'd say that that probably explains the refilling of the oil wells. So we got to do something about the Chinese because they're doing stupid shit again. Sigil Stone, China sending its fuzz to harass people in New York. Not surprising. Ever heard of the Shamrim, the Jewish extra-legal police? I think the Muslims in New York City have their own Sharia police too. Yeah, lots of foreign groups do this, exactly. The difference is that none of them are as well funded as China. China can manipulate its currency, make funny money off the table, and fund as much as it wants. And it does this constantly. They've gotten in trouble for it before. Let's see, just a sec here. Yeah, there's 4,000 people watching live, not counting the Twitter audience. I will check how many people are watching there. I think less, because I'm not used to the Twitter live streaming format. I'll check anyway, though. It'd be funny. Make sure I'm muted. Oh, actually, almost 500 people are watching on Twitter. That's a lot more than yesterday. Hello to everyone on Twitter, by the way. I will attempt to get another screen and a better setup in the coming months, and then I'll probably be able to interact with Twitter as well as YouTube and Rumble. I'd like to branch out even further. Why the fuck not? You know, I guess I won't be getting on Cozy TV anytime soon. I think that might be a little bit on the problematic side based on recent revelations, though. And then the final piece of news, sort of a throwaway, although I figured we'd have to talk about it. Nearly 2/3 of Republicans believe McConnell should resign, poll shows. Yes, Mitch McConnell has a problem. 64% of Republicans, according to a recent poll. One poll does not an aggregate make, but it's well outside of the likelihood that it's less than 50%. We'll just say a majority of Republicans want Mitch McConnell gone. He's 81 years old. He had a fall recently. He's had other health problems. You'll remember not that many moons ago, his hands were all bandaged up and all mottled and discolored. and it reminded me of the Queen of England only about a week before she fucking died. I'm sure her hands look the same. That could be an indicator of a massive vascular disorder, by the way. It does not mean that he fell and he injured his hands. That's probably not the case. It looks like hemorrhaging or clots or something like that. I think he's got a big fucking problem. Mitch McConnell, much like Dianne Feinstein and multiple other members of Congress and the judiciary in some cases, is probably not going to last another half a decade. He should fucking stand down. Getting Mitch McConnell out, by the way, as the head of the Senate minority before the 24 election would be a goddamn godsend. If Mitch McConnell croaks or is forced to resign, that will be like one of the greatest victories MAGA could actually have right now, depending on who actually replaces him. Mitch McConnell is not doing his job, much like Feinstein's not. He's over the hill. I mean, there are people that are 85, 90 years old that are still kicking and capable of doing their job, but Mitch McConnell's not one of them. And this isn't about ageism. Ageism is always brought up when you criticize Biden. You say, look, he's got health problems. Oh my God, you just hate him because he's old. No, it's not because he's old. There are people that are pushing 100 years old that can still do their job. I saw a story years ago about some forest ranger, I think working in Yellowstone. She was 100 fucking years old, and she was still going out there with her gun and her uniform and giving trail advice and looking after animals and everything else. I think she finally croaked, but she was still hiking around for miles a day at 100 goddamn years old. More power to her. God rest her soul. Again, I think she died a couple of years ago. Mitch McConnell is not one of them. Dianne Feinstein's clearly not one of them. Joe Biden's not one of them. He can't even decide what he eats for dinner. The man is a goddamn mental vegetable at this point. Dianne Feinstein's even worse. She's the most sick of all of them. I don't even support age limits for Congress or anything like that. I just think institute some sort of AI-derived cognitive test or something like that. Or better yet, simply have cognitive testing. And there are third-party medical physicians that literally get an array of all of the physicians in the country that don't have a registered political party. Put them in a random lottery system, and that is the one that does the cognitive test. Nobody knows until the test is conducted who that doctor is, by the way, so that nobody can influence their decision. Their cognitive test is then automatically made public after it happens within a week or two, thus influencing the election. If the person is not cognitively normal, the constituents have a right to know. Nothing further need be done. Just make the cognitive tests mandatory and unbiased and make them public. And the public, I really hope that the public would not elect someone who has been declared by a physician to be demented. I might be wrong. It depends on the seat, too. If it's a solid blue or red seat, it might not make a difference, but they're lost causes anyway. Testing 2741. Extremophiles make oil? We've never found such an organism. There are bacteria deep in the Earth's crust, and they don't have to be that deep due to tectonic activity. Chemophiles especially. They can absorb radiotrophs and so forth. These particular life forms, extremophiles within the crust of the Earth, excrete. They have to. They have an excretion system. So they're absorbing energy from chemical processes, from radiation, and they're excreting over time and eating down, localized sediment, localized stratum. They excrete things that are organic because that's the nature of excrement. This excrement over time in these massive colonies, especially within porous rock, get compressed by tectonic pressure. And it presses that material into pockets that form because liquid is incompressible, more or less. And therefore it forms little bubbles. And those bubbles tend to get moved around and they form larger bubbles and then little ponds and then lakes and then oceans of oil over time. It does take a long time to make it, but we do see it regenerating. We can already see that process in Texas, for example, in some of the so-called depleted wells that they had down there, completely refilled. Branch Covidian 19. My understanding is in Kentucky, the governor replaces retiring and dead senators. If McConnell dies or retires, there will be another Dem in the U.S. Senate. Yeah, possibly. We'll see what happens. Not that it matters. It's Mitch McConnell. Who gives a shit if they replace him with Bernie Sanders clone? It wouldn't make much of a difference for most intents and purposes. BW, I've watched documentaries on AI and life, etc. Do you think that we will ever be able to extend our lives well past 100? We can, but should we? I would argue that until you focus on cognitive decline, on mental issues, it's probably not a good idea to live too long. If you can ensure that there's no dementia, no cognitive decline, etc., and you can regrow limbs in a lab and shit, yeah, go ahead and extend people's lives to 150, 200 years if you want to. Just be ready for the demographic collapse that attends it. Sigil Stone, ever watch the movie UHF with Weird Al Yankovic? It has a supplies closet with a bunch of Chinese guys in it that yell supplies and kung fu beat the shit out of whoever opened the closet. Never heard of that. It does sound funny though. Anyway, I think I'm going to go offline. Almost an hour in anyway. Don't know what I'm cooking tonight, or if Liz is cooking, actually. We didn't discuss it fully. I was originally going to make chicken and dumplings, but I'm a little bit too tired, so I think I'll save that for a rainy day. Quite literally, that's when you want to have something that's down-home cooking like that. I make good dumplings, I do have to say. My first try was good. My second try was perfect. I make exquisite drop dumplings. Make stew or something, or you can put them in chili as well. It tastes a little bit different. So yeah, I'm going to go offline and enjoy a weekend. I do not stream on Saturday and Sunday, of course, everybody. And so please don't send any more super chats. I'll get to Jason Griffith here first. What do you think of millimeter waves, 5G causing health issues? Also, any thoughts on the pole shifting? Evidence with northern lights in Arizona? Think that was caused by solar flares, actually, and tends to be. The pole shift doesn't mean anything. Although people often act like it does. As far as 5G causing health issues, yeah, I can imagine that much ambient energy floating around in the air could cause some abnormalities. We know that certain really, really low sounds can cause that, so why not 5G? I think that more research maybe should be done before it's widely deployed, but they're not going to do that. It's a lost cause. Move to a rural area with less cell phone access. I wonder why those people tend to be healthier. That's about all. Peace out.